Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today for sector number 509, we have in the co-host chair Nick from Buds, Bros, and Superheroes.
Hey, man. Hey, everybody out there. Thanks so much for having me back. It's always so much fun getting that call to be on, so look forward to it every time. Thanks, man.
Absolutely appreciate you being on this week. If this is your very first episode, the way we format the show is we go through a block of news, and then we end it with the Brokehead block, which is what Nick and I have been doing since you last heard us, the more personal side of the podcast where you get to know us a little bit better. So let's jump right in with some video game news as we explore sector number 509. Warner Brothers Games has released an official cinematic trailer of the free-to-play game MultiVersus.
I don't know what's happening here, but this looks like a job for All right then, you're with me.
The new trailer does include the introduction of Looney Tunes' Tasmanian Devil, the Iron Giant finally meeting Superman in this game, and Scooby-Doo's Velma as playable characters. Did you get a chance to check out this cinematic trailer, Nick?
I did, just to be prepared for this. And dude, it was like right before we got on, and I might even sound a little teary for the exact reason you brought up of Iron Giant meeting Superman. Oh, dude, that fucking scene at the very end. Spoilers to a movie if you haven't seen The Iron Giant, guys. But more or less, the Iron Giant has to sacrifice himself in order for the people that he's now come to love and protect. And as he's doing it, he's flying towards the comet or the rocket, now coming towards them. And he goes, Superman, and blows up. And now he meets that hero, dude. Like, that's a full circle kind of fucking thing that I wasn't expecting from a 4-minute video for a video game.
If Warner Brothers were in better shape financially, I would say let's get a animated set of specials on YouTube or whatever it is, because a spin-off show with all these properties, or even, again, just 20-minute specials, so I can see more of the Iron Giant meeting Superman, more interactions between the different characters, and maybe the game will have some kind of story mode. I kind of doubt it because it is free to play. But just seeing all of these WB characters interact and Kevin Conroy talking to Shaggy, like all of this is pretty insane and not something that I expected to ever see.
Agreed. And then agreed on the fact, too, that I hope there's some sort of story mode, and I hope somebody on YouTube puts it up there, because I don't play the video game. So like that was something really awesome about this, that I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm not going to see any of it because I don't play it. I'm not going to be able to get it on an Xbox Series X or S or One or any of those things that I see here. But like, I do also enjoy that crossover, you know, for everybody going for their cinematic universe. Do it too, guys. Just throw all your toys in a sandbox. Like you said, it doesn't even have to be a full minute, 20-minute little sessions of like the Iron Giant and Superman and Batman and Shaggy. I want to watch that. I very much want to get in on that, but just can't play it.
Were you in on the joke of Shaggy being like this super powered being, the whole meme that they made up?
No. I thought it was just how he got his superpower as somebody took food from him. And I was like, that I get. Like, he's hangry, but I didn't know. I didn't know there was a meme about it.
It definitely gears towards the younger, because I heard from my 19-year-old coworker at the time when I worked at the comic shop, and that was a big thing. Like, oh, Shaggy's super powered. He's one of the strongest beings in the universe. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she was telling me that on the internet, I guess the people that grew up on the live action Scooby-Doo films, that is nostalgic to them. That is Scooby-Doo to them. So apparently there was something, I don't know if it was in the behind the scenes making of or somewhere where the character did mention, the actor mentioned Shaggy being ultra powerful. And from there, they made fan art of a Super Saiyan God form Shaggy, and the internet just took it from there. The internet did its thing to the point where in the animated Mortal Kombat films, they put in a Shaggy super powered Super Saiyan, basically what you see here, grabbing either a Looney Tune or one of the Mortal Kombat characters like Scorpion by the throat and pulling him back. And now he's actually in the game as a playable character, and Warner Brothers ended up embracing that meme and working it into his moveset.
I love that. I love that Warner Brothers embraced that. So, well, just kind of while we're talking about them, I did find it funny though. I kind of mentioned how long it was. Did you kind of feel it was a little long?
The whole trailer itself?
Yes.
Yeah, that was like almost 3 minutes of cinematics. Yeah, it showed off every single character and it made it very clear that it was a team up game and not necessarily a solo.
Which was cool and all, but at the same time, like these are the people who were like, it's too long, cut it, cut everything down. But for this, like it just kept going and it didn't add spokes to the wheel. It just added characters to fight. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking get it, guys. Super Smash Brothers, Warner Brothers, I got you. Like, let's get to the end of this by now. But yeah, I just found it. I guess that's ironic, like how long it was, considering it was produced by Warner Brothers. I was like, oh shit. I would have thought somebody would have looked at this and made it 76 seconds, no longer.
That's right. Less fight, less action, less violence, more jokes. Absolutely. That's what they should have done. I think Wonder Woman even showed up on there. I'm surprised she has a sword because that's too aggressive. Way too aggressive for the character. They didn't want her using that sword in Wonder Woman 1984. So this is out of control, Nick. That's what this is. Because of that merger, Warner Brothers just has all these things running around willy-nilly and they're out of it.
I also really enjoyed the old and the new meeting, like Steven Universe and Scooby-Doo being in the same frame like that, like of kind of quote unquote Cartoon Network style of like, cool, man. Like they're really coming all the way around now.
There were a couple characters there that on Discord, Bobby, who is a little bit older than we are, was asking, I don't know who that girl with the gauntlets is. I don't know who the girl with the sword is. And I was like, all right, that's Game of Thrones and Steven Universe. And he's like, okay, I never watched either one. And it was kind of like the Nickelodeon Smash that came out. I did not know like a fourth of those characters because they put in today's cartoon characters in there. And I'm like, all right, this is way beyond Rugrats and Rocko's Modern Life and Angry Beavers. These are characters I really don't recognize. But the Warner Brothers games ones here, at least I knew of. I'm like, okay, I know she's from Steven Universe. These are pretty recognizable. For the most part, they kept it at the most popular characters, and WB has so many franchises that they are able to, even though they're picking newer stuff, they're so popular that I can be like, all right, I get it. I know what that's from.
Agreed. Never seen an episode of Steven Universe. Knew exactly what they were though because of that. Sorry, the high and geez, Lou. It sounds like I'm high. So sorry. The in the consciousness of the public. I'm sorry, the high conscious public kind of thing of like, yes, I know exactly who they were. But wanted to circle back really quick. Sorry for Arya Stark. That was a deep pull, a weird one that I guess makes sense because Game of Thrones super popular and shit. But I don't know. That was the only time where I felt out of it because I feel like she would have seen bugs and fucking killed it. Just been like, rabbit, and just stabbed it right in the heart immediately. Like, why was she defending him against Batman? Well, I don't know why I'm looking into it that much either. Sorry, but.
Or why Batman was teaming up with Shaggy. He just accepted it. Maybe it was more like let's fight these guys now and then I'll figure it all out later.
Yeah, that's a good point too, where she is known for just kind of stabbing and moving on. Anyway, do you play any of these Xboxes? Like, will you get this game? Will you actually play it?
Since it is free to play, I will download it on something. Since it looks like it is available on everything, I'm sure I have a device that will play it, and why not? It's free. I'll give it a shot for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and so far it doesn't look like it plays like Smash Brothers, and because of that, I don't see myself diving deep into it, especially with the limited time I have now. But if it's something that I can just pick up and play and not really spend $1 on it unless I really want to over the skins or DLC characters, then there's really no harm in it. I think that's what it's going to end up being, just a lot of people trying it out for a little bit and kind of moving on.
Interesting. Yeah, didn't realize there that it was free. And then that's a good point too. Yeah, it's free, the base model. And then I'm sure, like you're saying, that makes sense. You see, like these are all the nuances that I forget about games sometimes. Like they hook you. They're like little crack sellers. Like, here, take the free version. But if you want the better stuff, you got to come back and pay for that. You want Arya with a few different swords? Like, pay me.
You want the Iron Giant with the Superman S, the one you saw in the trailer? Yeah, that's going to cost $2.
Good fucking call. Yeah, there's no way they give that to you up front. You got to pay $2 just to slap the S on them. Fucking A.
Before we move on from this story, did you watch all of Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Is there a different character that you think they should have put in there, or is Arya like the popular one?
I feel like just to go against what I said earlier in terms of making it what the fuck is going on is like maybe Daenerys on a dragon or maybe the Night King himself, maybe something a little bit more fantastical than her. even though she can kind of switch faces at the very end. So maybe that's a little bit of backtracking. I don't know. I just feel the fact that it was Arya that I was like, all right, this is a weird pull. Maybe putting some dragons in it would have just made it feel like I'm saying, a little bit more magical.
I also expected to see Harry Potter, since that's a huge WB property.
Yeah, holy shit. Good call. Where the hell was that kid?
No Harry Potter there. So even if they were to include him as a DLC character, like at least put in like Arya or Harry, and then the other characters that you're like, maybe they should have put Snape in there or whoever, or like you were saying, the Night King, and then you charge for those, but at least you have a couple franchise characters already in there just to get you hooked, as you were saying. So I don't know, that was a little weird, and maybe they need special permission from J.K. Rowling of like, these characters are going to be getting hit. And that's a big deal for some of these creators.
That's a good point. Either that or they also have to pay Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Rupert, any one of the ones that they chose for their likenesses. I don't know.
Yeah, otherwise they have to make them generic or whatever.
Just some kid in Hogwarts robes with a wand. But at the same time, like, it would have been, oh, okay, it's Hogwarts. I get that immediately. Because if you know kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. David Zaslav has gone in and is wasting no time. I think we're on day 30 or 40 right now of the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. And after DC's Legends of Tomorrow cancellation, co-showrunner and EP Kido Shimizu tweeted that Greg Berlanti Productions, DC, Warner Brothers, and the CW were all in support of the show's return. According to Deadline Hollywood, the call to cancel that and many other CW projects, including Naomi, Charmed, Roswell, New Mexico, and Batwoman, came from up top at Warner Brothers Discovery. So both Batwoman and Legends wrapped up their seasons this spring with ambiguous endings before they knew whether or not they were going to get renewed. And we have a quote here from the showrunner Kido, who said, quote, "The cliffhanger isn't the CW's fault, it's mine. I played chicken with the pickup and lost. Hopefully the story can continue in another form, TV, movie, comic book, radio play," end quote. So Zaslav is really going through, and it seems like cutting down and trying to make up this debt. Are you sad to see some of these CW shows go, or do you think that this is the right business move right now?
Yeah, I'm sorry to say, I think this is the right business move right now. I consider myself a pretty big nerd and fan, but if I'm not watching this thing, I don't know who is. You know, some of the DC TV has not been that great. I can't really remember being on board since like the Flash season 1, because then it just kind of got a little too CW, I'm sorry to say, you know, where Kevin Smith always talks about it when he's talking about Jay Muse watching, as the Shirtless Boys Network, where like it just kind of seems like somebody took a daytime soap opera, turned the ages back, and then kind of threw in superheroes, where it's just a little too much for me sometimes. But I do like to keep up at least with like, oh, they went there, okay, and just reading kind of stuff of where the story went. Every now and then for the big crossovers, I tried to turn in, but I'm not watching any of those. Charmed, no idea that was still going. Like, I know that's a reboot of the original, but I had no clue that was going whatsoever. I knew the Batwoman had the Ruby Rose controversy and switched up. Don't think I've ever seen an episode.
From what I understand, they lost a lot of viewership after Ruby Rose was left the show or kicked out of the show, whatever it is, depending on what side you lie on, and that ratings most likely dipped. And I was kind of surprised that it even had as many episodes as it did, based on what was going on. You know, they're looking at the numbers, they know something, they can see stuff that we can't. So obviously someone up top went, okay, these are not meeting any kind of minimum standard that he has in mind based on the cost that it is for CW. So get rid of all of these shows, save all of that money. I don't care what season it's on. What about one more season just to wrap this? No, we're not going to spend any more fucking money on this. He is moving fast.
Yeah, I hope that it's not so much a cancellation of fees for CW shows as much as a reallocation to go into maybe some HBO DC shows, or just something where like taking, how many shows did we just count? 1, 2, 3, all these shows, and then putting it towards the production of something maybe just a little bit more serious, a little bit more on par with today's special effects. Because that's some of the other things too. When I watch this, I'm just like, what year is it? Like, this is what we settled for this week? Mm-hmm. This is crazy. So I it's not that I don't want to see DC out there, especially in TV format. I like little episodic things a bit more as I'm kind of finding the streaming wars continuing like everywhere. They're everywhere now. So I just, like I'm saying, I hope that money doesn't, they're like, no, pull it from DC TV. They're just like, no, put it into this DC TV instead.
With what David was saying last year of we're going to spend this much money, he put some crazy amount of money that they were spending, like the second most right behind Netflix, of investing into new projects and shows and all of that for what is probably going to be called Warner Brothers Discovery, the streaming service. And you're right. I think some of this is to make up for some of that money that they will then use to really pump up the streaming app, because it sounds like that might be, aside from the movie studios, obviously that's going to run its own thing, but the app is a big focus for him since he did come from Discovery, and Discovery Plus was doing very well for them. So he wants to try to do that on a much larger scale with all of these intellectual properties that they have that Warner Brothers has been misusing. David was very clear in saying, you have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. We need to use those characters. Superman hasn't had a solo film since Man of Steel, and BVS is the sequel to Man of Steel. I know a lot of people are like, make the Man of Steel sequel. Well, that's it. But it's still been since 2016, and we haven't gotten that. It's kind of ridiculous. The only cameo since, aside from the Snyder Cut, is a headless cameo in Shazam, and they couldn't. It's just embarrassing at this point. And the more I see David take action on these things, the more confidence I have in, at least the more faith I have in DC and Warner Brothers' properties, because no one since all of these different heads have come in and tried to right the ship has gone this deep into, there's no hard feelings. I'm just doing what I feel is needed at this point. I don't care if I'm hurting anyone's feelings. I don't care if the certain fans get mad. There was a trending of Batwoman coming back, and it's like, no, we're just canceling that. I don't care. Like that guy seems like money is first.
Which, in the long run, let's see how it plays out. But I'm in agreement with you of like, all right, I kind of like where we're going. It's definitely new. Let's take it a little bit, and also that's backed up by what I just said. Like, I have no love for these properties in this form, so all right, let's see where we're going.
And Netflix, as you were saying, the streaming wars that we are definitely in. I don't know if something like this would have been produced, especially in the state that Netflix is in right now. Not too sure. Maybe we won't get a season 2 of this. But according to showrunner and executive producer Andrew Dabb, Resident Evil will have no ties to the previous films, but the games are considered canon for the series. So the synopsis reads, quote, year 2036, 14 years after a deadly virus caused a global apocalypse, Jade Wesker fights for survival in a world overrun by the bloodthirsty, infected, and insane creatures. In this absolute carnage, Jade is haunted by her past in New Raccoon City, by her father's chilling connections to the Umbrella Corporation, but mostly by what happened to her sister, Billy. End quote. First teaser trailer released last week. Pretty generic. Shows you some zombies and our main characters running away from them. A little shot of New Raccoon City. But all episodes will drop on Netflix on July 14th, so you can binge the entire show. We've had some rocky experiences with that new reboot film for Resident Evil, but the games have been doing great. Resident Evil 7 and 8 were very well received by gamers. Are you much of a Resident Evil guy, Nick?
No. As aforementioned, don't really game at all. Unfortunately, this isn't connected to the films, and it's not even like I watched a lot of those. I know for sure I saw the first one. And then after that, I just remember it dying away. The last one I remember was awesome, though, because I remember this specifically, not the movie, but outside or in the lobby of the theater, they had the giant thing of Mila Jokovic with like 2 big swords, and it was life size, so you can stand next to her and pose. And like, that's the last connection I have, is being like, look at this giant piece of cardboard, Mila Jokovic, yeah. So no, I do remember they did something, they being Netflix, of a new movie, and from what I've heard, again, kind of, same thing in the Steven universe of keeping up with pop culture in general, of it did okay, right? People didn't love nor hate it. It wasn't like they set the world on fire, but I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I'm just not a zombie guy, dude. The last zombie thing that I was really excited for was Snyder, was for the Army of the Dead. I was like, yeah, let's do this. And ever since then, too, I'm okay on zombies.
I agree with you too. I'm not a Walking Dead guy, and Army of the Dead I thought was really neat, and I haven't seen a ton of post-apocalyptic content, but obviously he made us care for fucking zombies, which is crazy. There's a little story to these creatures, and he sort of elevated a little bit that creature of like they have intelligence, they seem to have a culture, even even if it's him controlling all of them by making alphas and all of that. There's a little baby involved, so they can apparently have sex and have multiply, which is crazy. So he just continues to do new stuff with zombies. Lasted it with Dawn of the Dead with the little zombie baby, which hadn't been done before, which a lot of people will still remember the zombie baby movie. But I'm with you, man. Resident Evil, I'm a casual fan of. I haven't played the games. Resident Evil 4 is my favorite video game of all time, but not because I'm a Resident Evil guy. It's just an excellent game. So for me, I will be checking this out. I do have Netflix. I understand why they're like, it's set in the future because the last game, from what I remember, it's basically current day. So by them going, 10 years in the future, we can fuck around with whatever they end up doing in between. It's just a show. And that's what they did. They're just like, here's a far off future show and we can play around with it. And we can say it's canon. We can say that these are descendants from some of the characters. I already recognize the last name Wesker. So that's how they're going to be playing this. And it could easily go wrong. I hope it doesn't for them. And I'll definitely be checking out and you'll be hearing about it here on the show.
I like that though, that honestly makes me just a little bit interested in it because that's a smart play. Like you're saying, if it does go well, you have so many opportunities to write things either in between or continue going and continuing either calling back or reaching forward, so if you write a new film that's in like 2025, let's say, like you're saying, I can have legacy characters who's like, oh, that's going to be that guy's grandfather or that kid's grandson or some shit like that. I found that interesting. At least that's cool.
We may have gotten at some point a sequel. I'm sure there's been tons of talks at Disney, especially like 8 years ago when Nightmare Before Christmas had this resurgence in popularity as kids like me grew up and earned an income, were able to spend money at places like Hot Topic. And I was guilty of that. I went to Hot Topic and I bought some Jack Skellington shirts and little snow globes and statuettes and all of that. And at that point, I think it would have been a strike while the iron's hot. Let's make a sequel. But since then, they have not done a sequel to Nightmare Before Christmas. And reused music composer himself, Danny Elfman, was asked about the possibility of a Nightmare Before Christmas sequel. He said, quote, "I don't think so. I think Tim has always felt that no, this is what it was. But it wouldn't totally shock me if he came back if he had a fresh take on it, I would certainly go for the ride with him. But he's never expressed any interest in that. I think he felt like this was a pure thing and that it was what it was and that to try to do sequels on it would, I think, just not inspire him. But I won't ever speak for Tim," end quote. So Elfman sounds like he's on board if Tim wants to do it. If Disney throws enough money at him, I don't know if Tim's the kind of guy that would say, yeah, let's go ahead and do it, or if he honors his craft that much where he'd be like, I'm not interested, don't even buy me out. Do you think that a Nightmare Before Christmas movie would work in today's fandom? Has it cooled off? Is there still a chance?
If I may, sir, before we get into this really quick, because I just learned this whole history of answering your question really quick. Why is it that it would be up to Tim Burton exclusively? I just now read like this whole thing. Like he didn't actually direct it. He wrote the characters and the story, but he didn't write the screenplay.
Right.
He wasn't really there on set as it was going on. Like he just got his name slapped above it. So I don't understand why it would just 100% be up to him. Like you can get anybody else to kind of come. Like Disney owns it, right?
That's why I'm like so up and down about it, because it is called Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't know if that has something to do with it, where he would say, don't put my name on it, or if they would need his permission. They've already used Jack in the Kingdom of Hearts games, and I don't know if he signed off for that. They even did a PlayStation 2 sequel video game that continued the story for Nightmare Before Christmas. And again, I don't know if he had to sign off. So yeah, that's a good question. Why do they need his permission?
It's like John Carpenter's Halloween. Like we've gotten reboots. Yeah, it doesn't have his name on it anymore, but nobody like went to him and they were like, can we please do this? I don't know. I'm iffy with Tim Burton, where I'm like, we don't need his fucking permission. If you want to do it, just fucking do it.
You're fucking Disney.
Yeah, if you feel like making another one, go ahead. But to kind of circle back and now answer your question, I don't really care, man. I mean, I like that movie for its time. And when I say that, like in and around spooky time, so like October and shit. But I'm not one of those ones who's like, oh man, I haven't seen this in 2 or 3 weeks. Let's pop this in or turn it on a lot. I don't know where the story'd go. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to like go back to the trees full of holidays and have them fall down a different one or multiple ones, or I don't know.
That's probably what would happen. Yeah. Go to the different holidays and ruin the others. I don't know.
But people would fucking eat it up. People would pay for it. So kind of going back to the other thing of like, money, please. People would fucking pay for it. So maybe they'll do it. But at the end of the day, fuck it. If they feel like it, stop worrying about if Tim Burton cares or not. He didn't make the first one. He was there. His name's on it. I don't know. I feel like he was the kid in the group who was like, just put my name on top.
I remember when there was that Coraline film and they're like, from the director of Nightmare Before Christmas. And I had a coworker and she was like, oh, I love Tim Burton. I'm going to go see that. I'm like, that wasn't Tim Burton. But it said director of Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm like, right. Why do you think it says that and not Tim Burton?
Oh. Because they were smart. That's why they did that.
But that's a huge thing where Tim was working on Batman Returns at the time, and they would consult him for the movie, but he definitely was not as hands-on as people like to think. It's just, like you said, he wrote the poem that the screenplay was then inspired from, the story was inspired from, and he did the character designs, and they took those designs and they brought them to life. But it would be a very different film if he had actually directed it.
Agreed. And when you're talking about bringing to life, I was watching and like, I think more so because it's stop motion, the painstakingness of making it quote unquote come to life is also like bringing this factor of like, you weren't there. They had 27 different heads to make sure Jack's mouth moved in the correct way to make it look like he's speaking, all taking them on and off and taking a single photo in between. And you put your name on it. You didn't take a single fucking photo, dude. You didn't do any of that. You were off making Batman, which is fine, but I don't know. I don't know why this bothers me on such a fucking weird level.
I also deep down feel like Disney would make this into a CG movie. Like I know that it'd be blasphemy. Like, you got to do it stop motion if you did more with it, but they would be like, let's just make it cheap. Like, people don't like stop motion anymore.
No, or they would CG it. I bet they would rather put in the money to figure out a new way of CGing something to make it look like stop motion rather than just spending the money to stop motion it.
That's true. Like, cut out some frames every now and again to give it that kind of janky look to it. And it's like, there, done. Same shit.
Yeah. And now we can go ahead and copy and paste this on a bunch of your favorite stop motions from the past and make money.
That's right. Yeah, you know it. It's like we've all figured out the formula or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got another news story here, the last one, and it does deal with what would have been stop motion. They used some animatronics and then eventually CG, and it changed cinema forever. Jurassic Park. But we're going back to some of that as comicbook.com had the chance to chat with director Colin Trevorrow, who talked about using more animatronic practical effects in Jurassic World Dominion. He said, quote, I felt like I had to, and I felt like at a certain point, not only are we honoring Jurassic Park by bringing back these characters, but we're honoring the way that it was made and how handmade the whole thing was. And so we have more animatronics in this movie than both of our other movies combined, end quote. That gets me super excited, man. And I don't know if kids will care, but I am so excited.
As am I. That is a very inspiring quote for that reason of somewhere. I don't know if I've seen the previous one. I know for sure I saw the reboot. I don't know if I ever made it past like the extinction of the old one for that reason. If I just was watching, I was like, I don't know, like I don't feel like I'm there as much as I felt like I remember sitting and seeing the original Jurassic Park and being like, dude, like they're fucking there, like almost kind of buying it for the hot second that it was when I was a kid. And even to this day, popping it in and watching Sam Neill like get on that Triceratops chest as it's breathing in and out. I fucking buy it. I really fucking buy it. And I think that it's the animatronics that built into it and like melded with the CGI that just made it so believable then. And if they go back to those roots, I'm definitely I like now. I'm excited. I really want to see this.
After I've read this story and the quote, there was a Jurassic World Dominion TV spot that was on Hulu yesterday, and I made sure to pay extra attention because, in the first Jurassic Park, if you really pay attention, you can point out, like, okay, that's clearly an animatronic, that shot is clearly CG. But as you're watching it, it all looks so real and good, and it still stands up really well. So for the Dominion trailer, I'm like, okay, where did they use an animatronic? So now I'm really watching, and there are two shots where they have the Gigantosaurus, and obviously I don't think they built the entire body, but you can see the head and the arms popping out of the forest and doing its roar, and it's like, that is definitely not CG because it looks a little stiffer. I'm like, they made a giant animatronic head for the Gigantosaurus, and they're gonna bust that thing through glass, and you're gonna see that shit all over the fucking movie. And there were two shots of that, and I was just like, he wasn't fucking lying. They really do use quite a bit of animatronics in this compared to the last couple of films.
That's awesome. Especially, we're talking Hollywood. We're talking big budget Hollywood. It's Jurassic Park. Like, it'll pay off. Nerds like us will notice and talk about it and then go see it more than once to be like, look, and do exactly what you just said. Sit down there and be like, that's when it was animatronic and that's when it twitches. Like, do you watch on YouTube The Corridor Crew?
No, never seen it.
They're pretty fun. They are VFX nerds themselves, and sometimes they go through and they'll like critique things and kind of say, oh, this is how I think they did this. And then sometimes I've seen them fix other things, especially the one that I love the most was they fixed The Rock at the end of the Mummy 2.
Oh, wow. They redid the scene?
They did, yeah. Not the entire thing, I don't think, but they went through and made a few shots just a little bit more bearable to watch. And I think that's how I found them, and just kind of going through, on the subscriber thing of just suggested watching every now and then. It's VFX artists react to, and just to see them. The other one I went through was Avatar, just because I love watching people shit on Avatar, The Last Airbender, M. Night Shyamalan. So that was another good one. But anyway, like nerds like that will go through and watch it. So yes, spend the money, make sure to do it, and we'll all be super duper happy pretending like there's dinosaurs again.
Dominion is set to release next month on June 10th. Trevorrow did say that the reason why they brought back these classic characters from the first film was as a send-off to the franchise. He has said, and they've all been very clear in the past, that this is the last film in the franchise. Now, there's obviously tons of money to be made with Jurassic Park and dinosaurs. Do you think that means they're going the reboot route in a few years?
Oh, absolutely. A few years. No, man, they won't give it that long. They'll give it 36 months tops, dude. Are you kidding me? There'll be a spin-off sequel show somehow before there's a new movie. But yeah, they're 100%. Like when they say a send-off, what they mean, in my opinion, like this just closes the big chapter. Everything so far connects between all the movies, and now, yes, they will reboot, spin-off. They will go a completely different way. Yeah, there's no way they're going to let Jurassic Park die as a franchise. Like, nope, we're packing it up. No more dinosaur play for us. We just have rides and T-shirts. Like, I see a Jurassic Park T-shirt. I don't think I've ever been to the store and not seen one. They've been selling that same image for almost 30-something years now. There's no chance in hell that we will not see some sort of Isla Nublar reboot soon. And that's what they'll call it, just to make some people go, I wonder what that's about. Meanwhile, nerds will go, oh, look. They said the thing with the thing. It's going to be about dinosaurs.
Man, I really don't know how they can go about it. Like, I think you're right. A spinoff I would be happy with. Because right now, Jurassic World, it is what it says. The dinosaurs are running around in the wild. Humans have learned or are learning to live with dinosaurs. So you can't really get any bigger than that as far as where you go next. Because the first one, they're all contained to the park and they escape. And that's the end of the movie. There's really no resolution other than we got the fuck out of there. We don't know what happened to Hammond. We don't know what's going to happen to the dinosaurs. It just ends. And that's the end of the film. But with this one, depending on how it ends, I mean, they either put a spore out there or some kind of something out there that starts killing off the dinosaurs so that humans can start to rebuild. And then it ends with an egg, an egg somewhere hatching and, oh, here we go again. Or it's really going to be a true, like, okay, and we've learned to live with dinosaurs and that's the end of the thing. But I really don't know what the right move would be because I don't think you can reboot it and call it Jurassic Park and have a new John Hammond. I think it's too fresh. I think a lot of people would immediately not see it out of principle.
I don't know. I don't mean to make such a huge pause, but I'm wrestling in my mind of like, still wrestling. I think curiosity would make people enough want to pay to see it just so they can flat out bash it. But I think it could be done. I really do, especially too, knowing the way Hollywood be, it'd be like Jane Hammond,
Yep.
something like that, where they could just kind of skip let's kind of get over the old guy and it's just spared no expense and we don't have to worry about talking like this and now just make it a lady and we'll switch it up and it's not meant to be a park as much as like a theme park as much as a conservation park or something. Like there are enough tweaks where they could repackage, resell, and people would go, I don't like this, cha-ching, but I gotta go see it.
That's true. A slight tweak, and that'll get people right back in. I know I'll be watching whatever they spit out because I'm assuming Leo will still be into dinosaurs at that point, and he'll be excited. I will definitely. Dinosaurs are not going to not be in my world for the next couple of years with this little boy, so they better make more. That's all I gotta say, one way or the other. But that does.
Let me ask you really quick. I'm sorry. Please. I just gotta say, I saw a meme I guess it's a meme the other day, and it really made me think. And it said, at some point in my life, people stopped asking me what my favorite dinosaur was, and that really bums me out. So with that, I just figured, let's get that going again before we end that. What is your favorite dinosaur, Dan?
Do you count sea creatures as dinosaurs? Because I know scientifically they're not. They call them like marine reptiles or whatever, but that's what I got to ask first.
I'm going to say no because I'd never heard that before.
Okay, so sea monsters don't count. Then I will go with...
Oh, no, I was saying they do count. Whatever came to your mind first counts. I don't care if it was in the sea or not. I never heard that they weren't dinosaurs until right now is what I meant. I'm sorry.
Okay, then yeah, the plesiosaurus. Just because I was fascinated with cryptozoology as a kid and teenager, the Loch Ness Monster, and from there I went down the rabbit hole of they think it's a plesiosaurus in that lake. What's a plesiosaurus? And I looked it up. I'm like, oh, there it is. It's the fucking Loch Ness Monster. Long neck and everything. And that just became my favorite because I started to learn everything I could about plesiosaurus, and it fascinated the hell out of me. But if I had to pick a land creature, it would be one of the feathered raptors because they just look really cool. Even the real life renditions where they are like giant birds, they're still awesome, and I really like the looks of them. So I got to ask you the same question then.
I was always Triceratops, dude. I just thought that they were pretty great. If not the Triceratops, like another kind of similar one of, I don't even know what the fuck it is. I probably knew it as a kid, and maybe that's why Triceratops sticks in the front of my head. But they had like their tail was like the giant kind of club looking thing, like at the end with spiky kind of thing.
Ankylosaurus.
Jesus, Daniel, you're awesome. We should start a dinosaur podcast just so I can be like, and what was this one? Because I was blown away. You knew the Loch Ness Monster one. Like, I got to go and look that up. Like, I only know the very standard ones, and you can go fucking deep. Like, this is great. But one more time, what was the one with the tail?
Ankylosaurus.
Nice. But at the end of the day, Triceratops too. A, I remember it. B, I just like the fact, like 3 horns. It's just a great design. You know what I mean? And on top of it, it had the bridge. I just felt like, hey, I'm not going to start a fight, but if I did, I'd fuck your shit up. Like that would be its motto.
I love that you say it's a great design. Like they just came out with this new model. They really nailed the design. This time.
Nature is just like, oh, you need to poke things 3 times. I got you.
Yeah, two wasn't enough. I think the 3rd horn really did it. Yeah, man, I got really sad when like the whole Loch Ness Monster thing. I'm like, so there could be a plesiosaurus in there, and then scientifically they were like, look, even if it were, there's not enough food in that loch to even house one plesiosaurus, let alone a family of them to count for the number of years that they've supposedly seen things in there. That's like when my bubble was burst, when I was like, oh man, I guess there isn't one in there. not the hoaxes or any of that. Like I was just like, whatever. But when scientifically that was explained somewhere, I think it was in a book, I was kind of like, all right, plesiosaurs are absolutely dead. No hope. But maybe there'll be one in Dominion. Maybe they'll CG one.
I would enjoy that. So wait, are you telling me too the thing in like the first one, the giant crocodile one, people wouldn't consider that a dinosaur? It's called a what?
Mosasaurus. Yeah, no, that's not. They're marine creatures. They're not considered dinosaurs. Same with the flying ones, pteranodons. They're a different class of animals, so they're not in the dinosaur family.
Holy shit. So like I get that now and everything. I never, maybe because I was never into older kind of biology, I never really thought to look into it. I just thought, fuck it, they're dinosaurs. I thought dinosaurs would be the kingdom But you're
Right.
saying it's a different phylum, class, or order that then separates them more into not like shit. Dude, I gotta ready for this fossil joke. I gotta bone up on my dinosaur knowledge because you're blowing my mind right now.
Which as soon as like you learn that, it's like, okay, then in Jurassic Park, why did they bring back the pteranodons? Or when I was watching Jurassic World, I'm like, okay, why a mosasaurus then if they're not dinosaurs? Like I guess for the park, they're like, well, we need a sea creature. So we need to have like a water park portion of this. So let's just put in the giant meanest fucking sea creature that was around back then. The shit that ate all the big sharks. So that's why I'm guessing the explanation was for, at least in the movie, of they're not all dinosaurs, but they're animals from that same period. So good enough.
Again, in my little pea brain, that's what I thought fucking made it. Like, oh, they're all from the past, so they're dinosaurs. That's why, like, when you look at crocodiles, they're modern day dinosaurs. I figured it's the same thing, but no, they're not. They're modern day sea creature dinosaur things.
Right. It's really weird, isn't it?
Dude, I mean, I'm not very old. I'm not very young, but it's blowing my mind. I feel like at this point in my life, I really should have known the things that you know about these dinosaurs and their classifications. Like I said, they were all the rage when we were kids. Everybody loved dinosaurs and shit. Now I'm just learning so much.
And the last thing that I wanted, since we're on dinosaur talk, that kind of blew my mind was all the different periods, right? Jurassic, Cretaceous, and Triassic, I want to say. And they're separated by millions of years. So us growing up, we saw all these pieces of artwork and dinosaurs fighting each other, and a lot of them never met. They were just separated by so many years that it's like, oh yeah, maybe that dinosaur would have never met a T-Rex. Or so that kind of also blew my mind, because now when I look at an image or a puzzle or whatever that Leo has, I'm like, most of these dinosaurs probably never knew that the other existed, just based on the millions of years that were so separated by these different periods. So that's another one that kind of I have to constantly weirdly like juggle. Like it doesn't make sense to me, but it's true. So
it's funny. That's actually one of the ones I did know, and I'll never forget. Ninth grade biology, Mrs. Khan, at the very front, they had I guess a mural or some sort of painting of some with a bunch of dinosaurs. And one day I was just fucking looking at it, and they were like, "Did you hear what I said?" And I was like, "No, I honestly was like looking at this, thinking about like, this is crazy, man. So many dinosaurs at once." And they went ahead and explained exactly just that of like, technically, like these three wouldn't even have been around in that time of blah, blah, blah. So that one, I feel a little bit better to have matched one of three of your amazing facts are dropping on me today. But it is, yeah, it's weird to think that somebody was like, fuck it, put them all together. It'll be great. It'll be good, better composition if they're all in one.
And I'll have to tell Leo one day too. He still hasn't, I don't know why he hasn't asked, like, let's go see a dinosaur. Like, maybe he knows that they're not around because he's never seen one, I guess. He knows it's fantasy, at least the ones he's seen in Jurassic Park and on TV. So I'd be curious to, I mean, if I told him, hey, do you want to go see a real dinosaur? He'd be like, oh shit, I didn't know they were real. Like, let's go. But he's never once asked to see, as much as he loves them. So I don't know. I guess when we were kids, I always knew, right, that they were just always dead. I don't know if that was explained to us super early on.
No, 100% agreed. Now that I'm thinking about it, of like, again, I thought it was special. I thought, so when to reference what I meant earlier about like thinking that they had dinosaurs on set for Jurassic Park as a kid, like I thought that they went ahead and made them like they explained in the movie for the movie.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, I didn't think like they went ahead and captured like Free Will. You know, they went and got an orca and then they shot the movie and shit. I didn't think that about Jurassic Park. I thought that they really somehow figured out for the movie to do this. And the reason we didn't do it in the real world is like, look how bad it went in the movie. Like we couldn't do that shit. But yes, agreed. Like nobody ever had to tell me like dinosaurs, they're real, but they're not here. Like it's almost like Santa Claus when you're that age. Like it's real, but not really. They were real, but there's no wow. You're blowing my mind with this, man.
Just weird shit I'm thinking of now, like when I talk to Leo.
You gotta let me know, dude, because that really is blowing my mind. You know, just at one point, just look at him and be like, "Hey, do you want to see a T-Rex?" And just see if he goes, you know, his eyes widen. He goes, "Yes, of course." Or if he goes, "No, stupid, they're not fucking real." Like that would blow my mind. The answer to that.
Yeah, that'd be the first big betrayal, though. If he says, "Yeah, let's go see it," and I'm like, "Oh." Man, what a risk.
All right, sorry. Just one more here. If Jurassic Park was real, would you go? Like, would you Disneyland it and kind of save up the money for you three to go and have a vacation and spend your week in Jurassic Park?
I would,
especially in the Chris Pratt one, knowing that John Hammond opened that and shit went really wrong. in the modern day one run by freaking Ron Howard's daughter, shit happened, but it hasn't happened for like, again, you're in that first, you know what I'm saying? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's the key right there. I would wait a while, but I would go. Absolutely. Like I wouldn't be, it's kind of like when they open up a new ride here in Florida for Disney, Universal, all of those. I never check it out right away because I'm like, there could be accidents and there's kinks to it and all that. So I would absolutely be there though. Why not? I'd want to see them right up close. Like that would work in the real world. Even if there were constant breakouts, I think people would still be like, no, let's go see dinosaurs. That doesn't happen that often.
Agreed. And that makes me honestly think that the one guy in there is just fucking full of shit. Like, I feel like a T-Rex would draw millions of people in a crowd for decades. I don't think anybody would ever go, nah, I saw the T-Rex once and I don't want to go see it again, you know?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Like, there are people who go to Dollywood hundreds of times in a year. Like, if they're going to pay for that, they'll see a T-Rex like billions of times before they're dead.
The book fucking ruined a little bit of that too, where some people do play around with that idea of like, maybe one day we can clone dinosaurs. But the book itself even says these are creatures that we've brought into the present and they're not used to breathing the air we do. In other words, like there was way more pressure or less pressure back then that you bring them to the modern world. And in the book, they explain this is why a lot of them are getting sick because they can't live in this environment. It'd be like us springing 2 million years into the future. Just that alone, the weather, the changes, modern day human today would most likely die very young out of cancer or whatever it may be, just based on the fact that we are not acclimated to that. We haven't evolved to that climate. So that's one of those things too that I don't think is ever going to happen, to be honest with you, as far as like a true dinosaur clone, because you really can't with the type of gravity even levels that we have. That's why they were so big back then, like giant turtles. Have you ever seen those fossils? Like the giant fucking ones?
Yeah, no, that's again just making a ton of sense of we've kind of terraformed the planet at this point to be what we need it to be, and we're kind of going a little too far where it's becoming too treacherous for us. So just imagine how many more trees there were.
Right.
Minus all the houses, how many more trees there had to have been and shit. And how much clearer the ocean was and all that stuff. So exactly, if we were just to even time travel, a perfect dinosaur specimen, one that had 100% of its own DNA, and just drop it in the middle of a city, I bet you're right. Like a week, 9 days maybe, and it just fucking dropped dead.
Yep.
Of smog in its lungs, and what, it's eating us, and we're full of McDonald's and shit. Like it would just it would not last as long as I think these people. Yeah, good call.
But this has been a Jurassic Park podcast, my friend. This has been awesome. We can check out dinosaurs on June 10th once again next month. But let's head right into the final part of our podcast this week. It is the Brokept block where you get to catch up with Nick and I. So Nick, what's been going on since you were last on the show?
One that I think you'll be pretty excited for. Just this past weekend, there was a town-wide garage sale in my parents' town. And I went and I found comic books, Daniel, and I found nice comic books. Nothing crazy, nothing like, grail hunting worth of like, oh, I picked this up and now I'm nothing insane like that. But books that I just wanted, and books that, in my opinion, I'm surprised that I found so clean. This guy must have been doing it for quite some time. Most of the ones that I have are like 86, everything pre-90s. I think the oldest one is 86. Maybe the youngest one is like 82. It's a very specific time in which he was collecting, if I had to guess. A lot of number ones kind of coming out again, but just fun shit. A lot of the ones that I found in the DC come from like the Who's Who, those back issues of just explaining people exactly doing just that. I love those. I found the same thing on the Marvel side of like an encyclopedia. There was supposed to be 12. The guy had fucking 11 of 12 of them. Just shit like that. A lot of cool stuff. And at the end of the day, when he did the math, they were like $1.66 a piece.
Oh, nice.
Again, which in my opinion, I felt very comfortable with. Didn't even try to haggle. I was like, that's a fucking great price for these comics, especially at their age, knowing that there are a lot of them out there, but not like this guy kept them. I really do believe he bought them and bagged and boarded these ones and just put them away. And he might have had ones he read, but I don't know if some of these have seen daylight since I've now brought them out and put them out. And it was a cool day, dude. It was really hot out, but like it was just me standing over 4 long boxes. And I guess people kind of like got this like, oh man, this guy's looking through them really hardcore. There must be stuff. So like people were coming up to me and were like, oh, you got some good stuff in there. I was like, stuff that I like, I'm interested in. Like, oh, so like, what are you looking for? It's like, I'm looking at the comics and, some names I found. Oh, dude. Oh my God. I found 2 beautiful History of the DC by Wolfman and Perez. And I was like,
nice.
well, we just lost Mr. Perez. So like these have his name on them. I fucking want him just because I feel closer to him now, knowing that we lost him. And that's shit I'm looking at. And I don't know. It was a beautiful kind of day. It was a great. I have to shout out, if I can, my wife and my father, who were just kind of going around to pick stuff. And here I was, dude, 20, 30 minutes into 4 long boxes of just going, okay, like just pulling shit out. I'm going to make I was live on Instagram. I showed them off, but I did that so I could snag the video and put it to YouTube later. So anybody interested in seeing what I picked up, they'll be able to find it on Bud's Pros and Superheroes channel for a YouTube video soon.
I saw the pictures you put up on Instagram. Were they already bagged and boarded when you bought them? Sir. Oh, beautiful. That's what you like to see.
Dude, it was. And like, I was so excited by the comics that I kind of probably missed a beautiful moment to sit down with this person and be like, tell me, like, did you go every Tuesday? Where did you go? What's your favorite? I should have just sat and had a moment with a fellow collector, but instead I was excited that he was excited that I was buying them, because it was funny too. They had a sign on it. Please don't bend.
Nice. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no shit, don't bend. But these fucking long boxes were stuffed. So the natural thumbing of a long box, if you will, couldn't happen. Mm-hmm. So I looked up at them. I was like, excuse me, would it be okay if I took out about like an inch or two just to set to the side so I can get the thumbing motion going? And they said, yeah, that's fine, just as long as they're not bent. And I was like, oh, I would never. And from that, like, they started to chill. Like, they were like, oh, he's good. He knows what he's doing. Right. He's kind of going, And it was, again, it was a good moment, but I feel like I missed a beautiful one. I wish I just kind of sat down and was like, tell me, old timer, what was it like collecting in the 80s?
Sit down. I'll tell you. That's great. Yeah, that would have been cool if you went through it. Did they have other collectibles, this person, or did they only collect comic books?
They had a bunch of stuff. They had more quote unquote garage sale stuff, like what odds and ends, things of here and there. They had a few books out front, but like nothing crazy, nothing as well kept and organized as these comics were. So it wasn't, I don't know. I think that this was definitely a small portion of what he had. There were a lot of doubles, if not triples, of some of them in the boxes. So I feel like this is the ones, I feel like he priced them perfectly, especially if you bought in bulk like I did, where it ended up being $1.66 a book. I feel like he made out and I made out too, of just like, all right, great. This was a great exchange kind of thing. And I feel like that's why these ones were out the way they were for the price they were. But I feel like he's got some gold somewhere in that house of something really crazy. And I wanted to be like, listen, I can never afford them, but like, I'll pay you to look at them and not even take them out. Like if you could show me something like a Detective Comics 38, right? Is that first Robin?
That I don't know off the top of my head. Not the first Robin. I'm not too sure, but that sounds right. Detective 27 was his first appearance. It couldn't have been too long after that.
I want to say it because 37 is, my lucky number via Kevin Smith, and I'm always off by one. So it's either 36 or anyway, if this guy had it, of course I could never afford to buy it. But can you imagine just holding that shit? Like, right. Holy shit, especially for me, Dick Grayson's my favorite character. Like, holy shit. Like, I would pay $20 to hold that book and take a picture with it. I feel like he'd be down for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you're helping him pay for any of the unsold books he might have in there just for a picture. Works out.
Just for a picture. Just let me look at it. Maybe open the seal and let me smell it. But that would be the most. I wouldn't ask to like open the spine and actually read it or nothing.
Now, I don't know if you were going into this story yet, but I did see you also posted a Dragon Zord.
Yeah, that's another Mercari thing, dude. That if you're not on that website, I'm going to say don't do it. It's so fucking addictive. You could set up notifications. So like when this one hit it, I have a very specific price point and it was like, here it is. And I was like, thank you. That's perfect. And they send that shit out the next day and it's not perfect. It is played with toy from 1993, but it's intact at least. When I say not perfect, it does look like some of the stickers are peeling off by now. I haven't put batteries in to see if it truly does work. But for me, for my need, it's literally sitting in front of me now next to the Hasbro Megazord, Dino Megazord, and I'm just like, perfect. Thank you. This is the best.
Now I don't know if you have a Godzilla, but now you can make the actual battle go as you wanted, like maybe a longer battle with the Dragon Zord, maybe having more of an upper hand.
I thought about that, and I did think about you for said reason. It was like, all I need now is a Godzilla, and I can play this comic book out how I want it.
Round 2, motherfucker.
But dude, have you ever, just as we're really quick on Power Rangers, if you don't mind, have you ever actually watched like the Super Sentai?
Not Super Sentai, aside from what people will do on YouTube. Like I used to watch Top the Fourth Wall, and he would talk about Power Rangers and Super Sentai a little bit. So that whatever he covered, I would watch, and that's how I learned what it was based on. But no, I've never actually sat down and watched the original airing.
Hell yeah, to a Top the Fourth Wall. Love that guy. It's on Tubi right now, and I thought that I was going to go through and watch just the pilot, just the first one, just to kind of laugh and go like, look at this shit. Like I watched this in English. And I got hooked like 10 episodes deep. And not even because I liked the story is so insanely different. Like I thought it'd be kind of the same. Nah, dude, nothing about this is any what similar to it. And it hooked me pretty good, dude. I actually recommend it now.
So how do they explain the people in the suits and the Megazord?
You ready for this shit, sir?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny coming off the back of how like Jurassic Park talk. So we being human beings, did in fact live side by side simultaneously and harmoniously with dinosaurs. And then like there was the evil witch who we know as Rita Repulsa. I think her name is like, I don't know what it is. It starts with a B. Banduku, something like that. Came and they were going to destroy the world. And the Zords that we see aren't actually Zords. I think they're supposed to be real dinosaurs.
Huh.
There are protectors because there were 5 clans of people, and each of them chose like one person of their clan to get the power. So there was like the Tyrannosaurus Rex people, and that person put on the power, and all these villages came together to form the Megazord to put her on not the moon. It's this planet that comes into our solar system every 16 million years or whatever the math was. And that's she was never on the moon. We never went to the moon. That's why in that universe they can breathe outside, and it's its own planet, man. Like this whole lore opened up into craziness of like, oh, I always kind of assumed on this side it would just be 5 Japanese kids with attitude who needed. Nope, there's no Zordon, there's no Alpha, there's no command center. They're in like some ancient secret magical basement or like cave basement that they take a elevator to and shit because they don't have a Zordon, but they have their own wizard kind of leader. It's fucking nuts, dude. It has nothing to do with Power Rangers.
So far, you're describing a cooler premise. Like this sounds
fucking
better.
A. You're right, dude. That's what I was thinking this whole time of like, why are they trying to remake Power Rangers when they could just remake Super Sentai in English? Like if they remade this story today, this would fucking kill. It would. And I'm watching it now going like, no, don't remake Jason and Zach and stuff. Well, go ahead, because I'd watch that too. But like, remake these guys. It's crazy. And also there's 4 boys and 1 girl. The Yellow Ranger's a boy whose name is Boy. I shit you not.
Yeah, I knew the Yellow Ranger was a boy, but that's really funny. I like that. I'm gonna have to check this out, and I'm a little afraid to because now I'll be like, I'll ask you since you've done it. Do you view the original American Power Rangers now as a little bit lesser because of this?
Almost.
A little lazier, maybe?
Absolutely. This one was definitely, made for kids seems weird because if you remember the OG Power Rangers in the second episode, there was like this little spaceship kind of zooming around town. I can't remember the reason they did it in Power Rangers, nor really the reason in Super Sentai. They just shrunk it. But all I do know is like there's a scene in the Sentai where it zooms past 2 like schoolgirls and with such force that their skirts blow up. And they're wearing panties, but at the same time, I'm like, what the children? This is not for children. Like, that's what I think is the biggest thing of like, this is made for tweens a little bit more. So I don't know. It's a little badass.
Well, let me ask you too, what do they do in between? Like when they're not going to Angel Grove in this show, like what is their human portion of it?
Not much. So these are the same original warriors from like back in the 60 million. So like they were hanging out in mirrors waiting this whole time. So I'm assuming they're back in their mirrors, like back in their cave rooms which each have their logos like inscribed into them. But like the only time I've seen them not being that, they're still doing stuff. There's definitely a lot more heroing outside of the costume.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question right there. That's okay. That makes sense. I'm going to have to check this out. I really do. Only on Tubi, huh?
That's as far, yeah. And I didn't even know it. I watched this other guy on, I was watching this other guy on YouTube who was going through all the spin-offs of Power Rangers and why it didn't go well. And they said, oh, you can watch all this stuff for Tubi. And I was like, really? So I didn't do any more investigation other than just going straight to Tubi. And I'll sit through commercials. I got time.
Sure. Yeah, it's one of those. It's a free network, isn't it? Free streaming.
Yeah. I was flabbergasted. Didn't know that shit still happened. I thought you had to pay for everything.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. I love that. You got me excited for Super Sentai. Anything else go on in your week for the Brocat block?
Absolutely not, sir. No, I talked incredibly way too much. I was curious what went on with you.
No, you're good, man. Because I did not do anything as exciting as that. Finding gems at garage sales and catching up on Super Sentai. I guess finding my groove at work still, figuring out, okay, this is where this goes. This is how you close. It's not as traditional, or at least I'm not used to this kind of training. It's a little more like, if you have questions, let us know. And here we go. So I've kind of been learning on the go. Like today was the first time, even though, I've told them, hey, I still don't really know how to close the registers here. I've been shown how to do it, but I haven't actually done it, which is how I learn better personally, is to just do it myself, and you can walk me through it. So I was able to do that tonight on one of the registers. So I'm like, all right, I feel comfortable there. And that's kind of where I'm taking it little by little, step by step, and pulling all of these cards. So work is going okay. I'm getting a lot of hours there, which is great because I had not a lot of hours as I transitioned from one job to the next and as my background check cleared. So as I've said before, money's tight, but eventually I'll get into this cycle of bigger paychecks than what I was getting before. So that'll work out pretty well. And we have MegaCon that Leo, Kelly, and I are going to be going to. We had to shift around the recording schedule a little bit. So off mic, I was telling you, and I'll tell you here. So thank you very much for being on today. Kind of a 1 day's notice for everyone to have a show. But yeah, there's going to be MegaCon, and we wouldn't have been back in time to record when Maceo would be able to record. So we ended up pushing that back, and he had some stuff going on in his week too. So shout out to Maceo. Hope you're feeling better, and happy birthday to your wife. But this ended up working out okay. And yeah, we're excited. We're excited for Leo going to MegaCon and enjoying it as a 4-year-old at this time. He'll recognize more of the cosplays and creatures and animals and all that different stuff, whereas he was just barely learning how to walk when we first took him. He was 2 years old walking around, but I don't think he wouldn't have recognized Sonic or Batman or anything. And now it's like going to be really exciting to take him to his first really true convention experience.
It's really funny to think, kind of to touch back on the dinosaur thing. He'll probably believe Batman's real before he believes the T-Rexes. Like,
yes,
T-Rexes are fake. Batman's real though.
I fell for that shit, man. Like when I saw the Six Flags Great America Batman show on stage, I'm like, that's fucking Batman up there. Like, I really believed it.
Damn straight. Yep. We had one too at our Great Adventure, and it was the same thing of just like, holy shit, because he came in over your head over the dome on a zip line. Like Batman on a zip line. That's half of what he does. Like, all I need is the car. Holy shit, there's the car.
Yes.
That is Batman.
And you could feel the heat when they use the fire effects and all that shit.
Sure, I swear to fucking Christ, I was gonna say that. I was like, like that's a weird memory. No, so weird, so weird. Grew up so far apart and have the same memory of like, don't you remember the heat of the fireball with Batman? Like, yes, I fucking do. Holy shit, that was deep cuts. I'm like smiling ear to ear. That was such a weird thing. Like I thought it in the back of my brain, and you said it. That was so funny.
Yeah, I'll let you know too what he ends up liking and seeing, and maybe I can get a picture of him with a Batman or something. I don't think he's at that age yet where he's shy of everything. Like, oh no, I don't want to. I think he'll be like, oh cool, Batman. He's just really excited in general to see all this really cool stuff, to go to the comic shop. Even he loves it. We now get him a Sonic the Hedgehog comic book that he is so far liking, so he'll flip through the pages and he's quote unquote read it and he enjoys it. So it's like, okay, cool. If he's enjoying it, great. Because I saw that a lot with subscribers. It made me a little sad where they'd really try hard for their teenage boy to like, look, here's your comics. And they'd be like, oh, all right. Like you can tell they're only getting them because the dad's really into them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't ever want to push that on Leo. As soon as he loses interest in Sonic or comics, it's like, all right, cool. You know, like your thing, kid. Whatever it is.
Nice.
But that does about wrap it up otherwise for my Brocat block and for the rest of the week. I know it was a little bit lighter on the news week, but you know, having someone like you on, it's easy to have a conversation with. So I do appreciate it, Nick, being on, and please let them know where they can find Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. And
dude, I appreciate you having me on very, very much. So I say it and I mean it. Like I'm always excited when you're like, hey, can you fill one of the spots? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I can. And like I said, too, I appreciate you letting me come on and ramble about dinosaurs for that long. Like, it was a really fun conversation. So thank you, Daniel. Anybody out there, I do a podcast as often as I can called Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. You can find us where you find your podcast. Or if you just want to watch that one aforementioned YouTube video, that'd be cool, too. Trying to get more consistent, but, you just said it yourself with the new job and everything. I'm kind of in the same boat. Life is getting in the way. Hope to get some more regularity soon, but who knows? I don't want to promise anything just in case.
Absolutely. There will be links too where you can find Nick and the podcast in the description of today's show. So in case you're driving, you can come back to the show, swipe on over to the description. You will find all the links where you can find Nick and Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. And as you've said, the regularity, maybe you'll get back into the cycle or anything. But if you haven't heard his show, there is a backlog of episodes. So you can catch up and you can see the titles and all the different topics that they do touch on. Well, it used to be every week, but now you're still, every now and again, you will release an episode. So there will be some newer content as well, some more current content as you get closer to the more recent episodes. So definitely check it out. If you enjoyed this podcast, you will enjoy Buds, Bros, and Superheroes.
And let's not forget to mention, too, like I do the rotating guests and you're on it, too. So if somebody really obviously enjoys you, there's more you out there than even just this one. You can at least just go snipe those episodes out and boom, right there. There's more Daniel.
That's true. Yeah, have seen me in the guest seat. It's a lot of fun. I always joke like, now I don't get to do any of the editing.
That's how I feel right now.
Yeah.
Like, just like, wow, this is a lot of fun.
But to you on the other side, if you've enjoyed this episode, head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com and you will find the link to everywhere you can find us. And if you do enjoy the podcast, do tell a friend if they're into DC Comics, Jurassic Park, pop culture, all the stuff that we covered today. Let them know about the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, because the way podcasts grow, the most effective way is through word of mouth. If someone that trusts you and you have the same type of taste, you recommend them something, you recommend them this show, they might check it out. So we do appreciate that. But thank you, Nick, once again for being on this week, and to you on the other side for tuning in, whether it's your first episode or your 509th. I've been Daniel, joined by Nick, and Brocat Core, all will be well. So, Nick, there's a possibility that I may get a chance to talk to Walt from Comic Book Men at MegaCon. Okay. I'm in conversations with Tom from Blue Juice Comics, and I know he's going to be there. I'm going to try to see if I can maybe record something with him, depending on what his booth situation is. But if we do see one of the Comic Book Men there, is there anything you want me to ask Walt in specific?
Yeah, I mean, just to say always hello to Mr. Flanagan would be really nice. I guess if I had a question for him, it'd be, when are you going to start drawing Batman again?
All right.
I don't think that he needs to wait for Kevin all the time to write something. Like, he's a great artist for himself, and we're losing artists left and right. So let's get some more Batman going. Of like, that'd be my question. When are you going to draw Batman again? Or when are you going to draw again, like for DC?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and try to ask that. If I get on there and I'm able to talk to him briefly, because I know he's trying to plug his latest comic, which is, I know it's been in the works since 2017, Knights of the Fifth Dimension, but now I guess it's fully complete and it's going to hit previews. So they're plugging away at it over at Blue Juice Comics. But if I'm able to get him on so he can talk about the comic, I'm going to specifically ask that for you.
Nice. Thanks, man.
Get some Walt Flanagan Batman somewhere in the world again.